Hi, this is Dylan. Today we're going to be talking about the Project Temple logo animation. If you want to go to my website, project-temple.com, you can see things like the reason why I made it, the base that it's actually made from, but to explain it in short, it's the Risen theme by Terry A. Davis, and it's in the first supplemental pack, TOSTheme.HC.Z is the file's name. And then you can see what work I did and have it explained fairly thoroughly, the code additions that I did, and then other minor changes. And then both the intro and outro are linked in the website as well. And the actual, most importantly for going to the website that you can't get from a video, is the actual downloads for the files. So the .hc.hc.z and the .iso.c you can actually mount and load into a Temple OS version you are running. So let's go. So conveniently, that intro you just watched is actually the result of the project from this program. And you can actually see some of the assets up here at the top. The Project Temple, both of these are actually bitmaps. And down below you can see some of the meshes. There's the original ones from the TOS theme. I just kept those in there for you playing around and inserting them however you want in the actual programming below. And you can actually see the meshes that I used. Probably familiar with that being like the center of the flower up here. And then down here is the petals. You can notice that there's two of them. I'll explain why. So if we go here and select the mesh, and then we can go to create or edit 3D mesh. And you can actually see that that's the mesh. It's a little bit hard to actually get an idea for what it looks like, but yeah, there you go. That's a pretty good idea. And you can see that the actual petals themselves are straight in this example. So they come out parallel with the rest of the actual main petal. And if we go down to the second one, we can actually see that they're bent. They're bent 10 degrees about the origin, and we'll go into why this was done. That actually has to do with how it actually animates the mesh. So up here at the top of the document, we actually have this is setting the time, and it's actually set off of the beat. So if you change the tempo, it'll change the actual rate at which time changes. So increase the tempo and it'll seem like it's moving faster. And the music changes with it as well, because the music is actually defined in the program. What I used for the music in the actual intro and outro is just a MIDI file that I made. It's just a single piano. I didn't want to use the actual built-in audio in Temple OS, both because I don't want to actually make the music in here, and plus it's a very grating sound that some people enjoy, but a lot of people won't. I know a lot of people find it like nails on chalkboard. After that, we actually get to defining the wings and the bodies for the birds you see in the intro. And this below here is just more stuff, basically drawing the birds. And then down here, we actually are defining integers for things like the scale, which was a mesh that was used in the original, arm, chain, cup. And then the tilt is how much it's actually tilting during the animation. The bird number and the range, this is how far the birds are apart, this is how many birds are. Now here's the actual things that I added, the petals, and this is defining the scaling for them. So it's a 0.38 scale for the petals, 0.3 for the small petals, which the small petals are the same mesh as the petals. They just have a different scaling, and they're offset. So, and then the seed scaling, the Z rotation amount scale, it just how much they're rotating in the Z axis. The flower height is setting the vertical height in the frame of the center of the flower. The .com scale is the projecttemple.com bitmap. It's down in the lower right. So after that, we're defining integers and other variables and strings for variables. If you want to see how the actual original meshes were drawn, we can uncomment this for a moment to make it easier to see. Basically from here to here is drawing a mesh. So you have the identity equation and you're setting it, and then you're editing it by setting like the pixel width and height. This is moving it in the X and Y. And this Z, the GRZ all, is setting it so that it doesn't flash in and out. If you don't use that variable, it might be coming back and forth in and out of like render. So it's not, it's, from what I saw, a little hack Terry used. He used it in this and plenty of other files. Sort of a workaround. I don't really know how else to explain it. And then this is a rotation in the X and Z. You can see that rotation in the X is a constant, and then rotation in the Z is actually a function of time, and it's based off of a sine function. And then Sprite 3 DC0006. This is the 6 is the actual mesh that's being used, but like I said, I didn't end up using a lot of this. So if we want to see what I did, because all of these meshes, all they did were static and they rotated, the actual vertexes didn't move in relation to each other. So there was no real animation of the mesh, I guess you could call it. So the first time that I did this, it was using the large petals. And you can see that I define it slightly differently. I had to use a 64-bit integer string and set that equal to the 4x4 matrix. And then I used mat 4x4 scale. I don't think that any of the ones above actually had any scaling. I could be wrong, but anyways, that just uses the integers up at the top of the file to determine what their scale is. And then from there, it's setting the height and the width in the X and Y, its origins position. It does the same thing for the Z position to have it not flash in and out. And then I actually made the rotation in the Z and the X both based off of functions of time. They're very subtle, but they're there. And then here's the actual main thing that took a lot of research to figure out, and it's the Sprite interpolation function. So this first variable, the sine all the way up to the end of this parenthesis, that makes it a function of time, and it basically varies between -1 and 1. And then 9 and 10, 9 was that first mesh you saw with the straight petal ends, and then the 10 was the bent petal ends. So it goes back and forth, and it basically draws a vector from the edited vertexes or vertices, and based off of what this sine function is, it determines how close. So from 0, it'll be here, and at 1, it'll be here. At -1, it'll actually be the mirrored version of this. For that unit vector that's drawn between the vertices. And then this actually just draws the actual mesh. So Sprite 3, matrix 4x4b, and then the TMPS is that Sprite interpolation. And then R1 is just what we defined as that matrix, and it has all those edited functions on it. The same thing was essentially done for the small petals. And the seeds didn't need to have all of that. It didn't need to have the interpolation because it's static. None of the vertices move in relation to each other. The other thing is that projecttemple.com text. It's just that, yeah, that's completely static. And the top text is actually a function of time, the mat 4x4 scale. So it scales with time, and you can see it sort of bounce in and out in terms of scale. This goes back to the birds, I believe. And then down here is essentially it actually drawing the window, and you're setting the things that you're seeing. Like, for example, I believe that this is the background color. Yeah, it is. I changed that from light cyan to cyan, which is darker, and it's sort of like a dark slate gray. Looked much nicer for my purposes that I was making it. Yeah, so actually seeing it run, pressing F5, you can see the birds moving. This is actually not even edited. The birds moving is not even edited from the actual TOS theme. I like them, so I kept them in, at least for the intro. And you'll see that it actually loops a couple times. This is based off the fact that, well, I'll show you at the end when I'm able to close it. And I can't close it because the way that this program hides your mouse cursor, if you cancel it in the middle with Shift Escape, you don't get your mouse cursor back. So, yeah, and there's a sleep 250, and that's essentially determining how long it's lasting. And plus we can change the tempo. So that's 2.85 right now. We can change it to 5. And then I'm going to press F5 again. And you can see it's moving quite a bit faster. If VirtualBox actually had audio support, which it does, you have to do some extra things that I'm not willing to do. The music would actually be playing a lot faster too. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to talk about. Again, you can check out project-temple.com for an actual little bit more robust write-up on it than just this video, sort of off the cuff. Yeah, and then also, again, those downloads that are there for you to actually go and play around with and edit this file how you please. So, hope you enjoyed your stay. Bye.